Back from the news is a beautiful day right here, and of course this Thursday is different from other Thursdays because of the developing stories. I told us that to return from this break I'll be taking us straight to Rivers State where we'll be looking at the state of emergency being declared by the president and the coming in of a sole administrator, the reactions, what are the people saying, how is it like in Rivers State? We will have someone join us from Rivers State, and he's going to be talking to us today. This young man is a youth leader, and of course he's a pioneer of several movements. A few days ago he was on one of the media stations, and his interview was so interesting that a lot of people have to react today. And today we will be having him on global television. Joining us on the conversation this morning is Ebenezar Wikina. Ebenezar Wikina is the founder of Policy Shapers Rivers State, and it's good to have him join us this morning. Good morning, Eben.
Morning, Mr. Ramsey. Thank you so much for having me on the conversation.
Good morning, Ebenezar.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. Can you hear me?
All right. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning. How is Rivers State this morning?
Morning. Well, River State is tense. Just as understood, I think there's a sort of like a sense of worry in the air. Most people are not sure how to feel about everything that's happened over the past 48 hours. There's been a lot more like increase in military personnel, especially within the government house axis. In fact, from the night when the president gave his broadcast, we already saw like a lot of military convoys going to the government house around that particular area. So so there's so much like tension in the air. Most people are going about their like daily activities, like kids are going to school and people are going to work, but you can just sense that there's some bit of worry and anxiety. Yeah.
Okay, we're looking at the state of emergency that has been declared in Rivers State and its impact on the developmental stride, because if there is anything that Nigerians are actually worried about is the fact that the people of Rivers State have not really, in full-fledged, meaning they've not really enjoyed the dividend of democracy since this governor came into office because of the problems that has been. So as it is right now, the crisis in Rivers State, how did it degenerate to this level? How comes?
I mean, I think it's sad that it was even allowed to happen in the first place. The whole thing about godfatherism in Nigeria and the role it plays in our politics. And there are several videos of the past governor, former Governor Wikina, speaking against godfatherism and castigating his own predecessor about his attempts in the past to seem like a godfather. So it's quite shocking that he would say that 8 years ago, and 8 years time he's doing the exact same thing that he spoke against, and he's trying to be overbearing on the current governor's initiatives. People have heard rumors about him trying to select commissioners for the governor, or appoint certain people for the governor. In that kind of situation, it's really tough for an executive governor to be able to do any work if he doesn't have the people that he wants to work with him, and even use the resources in a way that he feels like it's good enough for the state. So he started from all the House of Assembly demolition to the issues with the House of Assembly members, and them announcing on TV that they were decamping to another party, even though the Supreme Court said that is not evidence enough, sadly. And everything that happened all through that time, from decamping to the case in the Supreme Court, and from the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court ruling now, and the governor trying to go present the budget to the House of Assembly, and the House of Assembly saying that they are going on recess. and everything. I mean, and then there was the rumor and the thought about impeachment, starting an impeachment process. So it's been a very, since October 2023, it's been a very rocky, process in the government administration in Rivers State. So sadly, that's what has brought us to this point. However, most people have argued that they don't think all that has happened warrants a state of emergency, especially because just 10 hours from Abuja, you have terrorists giving inhabitants of Yobe State 6 days to move away from their land. If not, they're all going to be killed. And we haven't seen the president make a national broadcast about this particular issue, or even declare a state of emergency in Yobe State, because that actually is an emergency. If you have a concurrent government that is asking local governments to pay taxes to them in another federation, that is a government that is standing up against you. So, I mean, we have all those issues across the country, whether it's in the east, where there's been a sit at home for as long as I can remember, and there's been, again, another concurrent government trying to stand up against the current government, and there's never been a state of emergency. So if you look at all of these cases, and you look at the River State case, where it's just a case of, people using political, doing political gymnastics and fighting back and forth. I mean, it doesn't seem to warrant the kind of response, in my opinion, that we've seen the president declare on River State.
All right. I think a lot of Nigerians are now saying the state of emergency, like you said, is not really necessary at this point in time. But then there are rumors, that some youths in Rivers States are planning to take laws into their hands. And right now in Rivers States, we have about 10,000 military personnel in Rivers State. Now, you are a youth and you are the founder of Policy Shapers. You've had a lot of international engagements, settling conflicts and advocating for people's rights and the right things to be done. On your own part right now as it is, what would you say is the reaction of youths right now in Rivers State? Because we heard that there is a plan, there is a plan for violence, and it's part of the reason why the president declared a state of emergency. So what are the youths? How is the state of the youths in Rivers right now?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know of any young person who is trying to cause any kind of trouble, in River State, because, that this state has seen its fair share of violence, right? There's been a time when we had, Ramsey, you live in Port Harcourt a while ago, so there are times when we had to raise our hands up in the air to walk, and there was a lot of crime violence and gang violence on the streets. But all of those days are far, far, far behind us, Rivers State has lost so much from the perception that it is a violent place. And so because of that perception, I think that young people cannot find places to walk. Young people themselves know that, we've not benefited from the fact that people think that everyone in Rivers State is just violent. So I don't know of any young person who is trying to cause any kind of trouble. As opposed to that, instead what's happening is that we have young people Policy Shapers has been able to organize up to 100 young people over the past couple of months. And we're organizing something called the Rivers 2050 project, Vision Project, where we're bringing together experts from respective field, and we want to see how the youth can envision, in collaboration with Policy Shapers, envision a new 25-year development, vision for Rivers State. The last time this state had a development plan was far back in the 1980s, and it's not good enough for us to have a state this magnitude without a plan, without a vision, and just living in the present. And so we want to be able to bring young people to that. So that's what I know. I know of youth coming together to engage on this particular issue. I know of young people sharing their views and opinions, but I don't know of any. I've not heard of any group of young people who are saying that they want to take matters into their own hands and begin to cause violence. Yeah.
But let's look at the crisis in Rivers State. This crisis in Rivers State has been there for a while now. has it really have any impact on governance? Because we are in democracy, and democracy, they said, is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And the reason why a lot of people would want to embrace democracy is because of the dividends of democracy. Now tell us, how has this crisis in Rivers State impact developmental strides, positively or negatively?
Yeah, no, it surely has impacted negatively. Sadly, if a governor is not able to focus on delivering on the mandates and the things he said he would deliver when he comes into office, it is tough for any kind of progress. I mean, there's been some bit of progress here where some new road projects are being built, some increments in salaries for civil servants and stuff like that, but the governor hasn't really been able to focus on delivering on development, because he spent maybe 8 years of his time basically trying to fight everything that's been going on. So yeah, I mean, this definitely has a negative implication, and that's why well-meaning Rivers people have been saying, if you care about the state and care about the people, you would, both sides, this is the governor side and the House of Assembly side and even the former governor side, would let issues like this die out and just move on, because that what matters most is the people and the people of the state. But we've had a situation where this has been on for almost 2 years, right? And none of the sides are sort of like letting things go. The governor by himself is also struggling to keep both sides at peace while governing the states. And so yeah, I mean, it definitely has impacted everything. I'm not really sure what he's been able to achieve. There are some strides in healthcare, if in infrastructure, but yeah, largely it's mostly been a battle over the past couple of months.
Okay, I'm so glad that I'm speaking with a youth today. You are a young man full of vision. Now let's talk about godfatherism. You said something when you got started, that the former governor of Rivers State was actually speaking against godfatherism some 8 years ago, and 8 years after, the same thing is trying to play out, as people have alleged. Because a lot of people are alleging that the former governor of Rivers State, who is now the FCT minister, has a hand in the crisis in Rivers State, because Fubara actually worked in his own cabinet too. Now, let's look at godfatherism in Nigeria. What can we say about godfatherism? How has it impacted the political scene, positively or negatively?
No, I personally think that it has negatively impacted the political scene, because if just in our context, if someone brings you into office, you are in quote loyal to that person, so the person sort of says jump and you jump. The person says I want this and you give the person that. I think that like everywhere in the world in politics, there are kingmakers. There are people who are like able to help other people get into office. But I think it's worse in Nigeria because of the fact that the kingmakers are, if I could say, even a lot more greedy than even the people who are in office, because they want to be able to take hold of what is there in power and sort of like superimpose themselves. Just as this case in Rivers State, you want to select the commissioners for the governor, you want to select who he works with, you want to tell him how he spends the Rivers State money, especially when you're no longer governor. You've been governor for 8 years. You had a long time to be able to do all of those kind of things, and now you've left, but you still want to impose yourself on the current governor. In that kind of situation, it becomes really tough. It becomes really, really tough to be able to make any kind of progress, because the state will only move in the direction of what the godfather thinks. Yeah, we are godfathers everywhere, but you don't see a godfather holding Trump. You don't see a donor and someone related to Trump's election coming to tell Trump that he must select his cabinet for him. So I think that our democracy is still at its infant stage, even though we've had democracy since 1999, and we really need to move forward, because if we begin to if we move our politics based on ideas and solutions, I think we'll easily get away with godfatherism, because then we'll focus more on who has the solutions to sort of like solve our problems at the state level, at the national level, at the local level, much more than who has the money, who's sharing money, whose godfather is supporting this particular person and stuff like that. So this is something we definitely need to move beyond. I mean, elections are coming very, very soon. We are beginning to see movements across the country, and it's the same rhetoric over and over again. The same people, begin to lead the conversation. And I feel like as citizens, we need to sort of take up that space, and begin to ask the important questions, ensuring that policymakers, our lawmakers are delivering on what we actually want them to deliver for us, based on the problems that we have in the country.
Okay, I'm taking you to Rivers 2050 right now, okay, because the reason why I want to ask this question is because of what is happening right now. This problem actually got started from somewhere, like we talked about godfatherism. Everything playing out right now, as it's been alleged, is as a result of not complying with one or two things from a godfather, as it has been alleged. We don't know, it's an allegation, but then so many things play out. Now, 2050, Rivers 2050, what do you think can be done to avert this kind of situation? Because we keep having elections in Rivers State, we still keep having people in democratic positions, political leaders, and all of that. Something went wrong somewhere probably that has resulted to this. What we are seeing now did not just emerge in a day, and now we're talking about 2050. So what do you think can be done to avert situations like this in the nearest future?
Yeah, no, we definitely need a more educated, I'll say, citizenry across states. I mean, we are talking about River State now. River State, I feel like we need a lot more enlightened, citizenry. I feel like this state gets a lot into a lot of like we versus them. There's so much fractioning, and I think people are not putting their eyes on the long goal. People are sort of like focused so much on the present and not really seeing how the actions within the present are going to affect us in the future. So I think that there needs to be a lot of like education about the rights of citizens, and the fact that citizens actually should have the power to sort of like decide who governs them. Secondly, I think our institutions also need to grow, because I mean the institutions in River State, I think, like this House of Assembly is one of the cases. The previous governor, there are cases where he was building houses for judges and stuff like that. This happens nationally as well. I personally don't think that you have a strong three-arm of government, with the judiciary being the watchdog, if you have the executive building houses for the judiciary and giving them the key and doing a ceremony for it and stuff like that. So all those kind of things, I think, you need to eliminate. You need to have strong institutions. The judiciary should be paid out of the state purse and should be paid to them directly. It shouldn't be given by someone, making it seem like it's his personal money he's due to give and pay these particular people. For the Rivers 2050, I think we're trying to see how we can lead a futurist movement in the states to get people to stop just thinking about now. Rivers State is blessed with oil, but what happens in 10, 15 years time if oil is no longer in demand, if oil prices crash? Some people used to say that the Stone Age didn't end because there were no longer stones. There are still stones everywhere. So the oil age will come to an end even when there will be oil everywhere. So how can the state begin to like buffer those kind of realities and think of how we can expand things like tourism, agriculture? How can we boost our healthcare? How can we ensure that education is on point so that people who leave the River State University and the University of Port Harcourt can easily find jobs within the state and don't have to start going out to Lagos and Abuja to look for jobs? How do we even find the sector? How do we know the sectors that have high absorptive power to absorb people from within the labor market? So like there's so many questions, right? There are things like how do we even ensure that the child that will be born in 2030 has a school to go to, has a desk in their school? Who will teach those kids? Who are the teachers? Our teachers, colleges have suffered for a very long time. How do we ensure that teachers are even well paid enough so that you encourage more young people to get to the teaching profession? So there are too many questions, right? And I think that what we're trying to do with this project is to first bring these questions together and bring the experts to begin to profile what we think solutions are, and have the young people vision what they want the state to be in the next 20 to 25 years. And there are a couple of states in the country that have plans, but River State hasn't had a development plan for a very long time. And we think this is the first step in the planning process. And we hope that when we finish this particular project, we can use that to advocate to the state government to actually do a long-term development plan that would help the states move forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Ebenezar Wikina. All right. River State now has a new. They have a new sort of administrator right now, and like we were saying, even Fubara couldn't function properly because he never had the support of maybe the government, the allocation was not there. Now, immediately there is a release of allocation for River State. Immediately, the sole administrator came in. Whether you like it or not, there is a faction already in River State. Already, some people are on the camp, in the camp of Fubara. Some persons are in the camp of Wike, and the sole administrator is just coming in as somebody who is not already part. What do you think? Is it going to get a support? Is it going to be very easy for the sole administrator? Remember, this is not a military regime.
I think, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, even the sole administrator himself should remember that this is not a military regime, so it's he needs to know that this is, I mean, the resources that will be released to him to govern the state belong to the people of the state. It doesn't really belong to him, and he's there for a short time, and he should see himself as a mediator in this particular, instead of taking sides on one side or the other of this particular crisis. He should see himself as a mediator and should be thinking more of how to move the state forward, because for me that is what matters the most. I really don't care much about whatever is happening in the political space, because I think that the essence of governance and leadership, public leadership, is to move people forward. If you're not moving the people forward, then you're really wasting everybody's time. So I think that should be paramount on his mind. I mean, he has support of the federal government, which means, like you said, you get the allocation. There are civil servants to be paid. I hope they definitely get paid. There are urgent needs that are needed within the state. Like there are things, stories about pipeline vandalization and stuff. I hope that we get security there. I hope communities that that seem to be on red alerts. I hope there's a lot of efforts done to douse the tension and ensure that there's more safety and security in those places. There are ongoing projects that the governor was already working on. I wouldn't want to see, for example, there's a free bus initiative that the governor did to be able to help people with palliative care for the cost of transportation. It wouldn't make sense if your son comes in and says he stops that. So there are many good things that are going on that I think should continue, and the administration should see itself more as like a stopgap measure to ensure that these issues are solved. But while the issues are being solved, governance doesn't stop. Things continue to move forward, and the people continue to see the dividend of the democracy. Yeah.
Okay. What are Rivers people saying concerning the whole situation? What is their perspective? What are they saying concerning the whole situation right now? What are the people saying? What the matters arising? What are they saying? The people of Rivers State, especially the youth.
Yeah, it will be tough for me to speak on behalf of everyone because there are close to 7 million people in Rivers State. But I feel like the sentiment that I've shared is a similar sentiment. People want to see development. People want to see the state move forward. People want to be able to see more investors coming to the state. So much more than everything happening, I think it's just a sense of, people are tired. This has gone on for over 2 years. People are tired. People want things to move on faster. And just as I said, if people are not able to see those dividends, then really, what is the point of all of this back and forth that we have been seeing over the past year plus? I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but I think that generally people are just tired of this whole thing and really want to be able to see that, we move on from this quick enough. And begin to see the governance that the state deserves. Because this compare River State to Qatar, for example, by size and population we're bigger than Qatar. But if you look at these are people that are able to host the World Cup. Can River State host the World Cup? Do we even have what is needed, for example, to even host the National Sports Festival at the current moment? So there's if you look at the outside world, the world is moving forward. People are bringing up in innovations. Young people are being supported to come up with solutions to challenges in their community. So I think dealing on this political issue over and over and over again is just tiring for everybody. I think we need to move on. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wikina. Now, before I let you go, this suspension is running for the period of 6 months. Some person said the 6 months is a long time. That is like half a year, removing the governor from the office and the lawmakers. Now, what do you think should be done within these 6 months to restore permanent peace in Rivers State? Do you think there are some things that you can outline, because you are closer to the people of Rivers State? That's why I asked of what the Rivers State people are saying. Now, what do you think should be done? Because all the people want is peace. Let democracy stand. Let everything move on smoothly. As it is right now, within these 6 months, what do you think should be done to make sure peace return to Rivers State?
I think first thing, I don't think this should last for 6 months. I think if the president really wants to like mediate on this issue and bring a lasting solution, I think this can be solved in 2 hours. I think this is bringing in both sides of the aisle into the room and asking them what exactly is the problem. What really is going on and how can we solve this? The president knows what the challenges are, and so that's why, just like other commentators, I've personally been surprised by why you need to go to the extreme length of declaring state of emergency when you already know what is causing the issue. It is the godfather versus the person that in quotes that is put into office, and these are their disagreements. So if these issues can be solved, and if the Supreme Court has given a ruling on a particular issue, why not make sure that ruling gets upheld and the governor actually presents the budget to the House of Assembly and the budget is debated and the democratic process actually is allowed to go on. So I personally don't think it should be on for 6 months. I think 6 months is a very long time, and it would eat a lot into the time that should have been used on development of the state. So we need to make this quick and shorter. I think that mediation and negotiation should be going on now. Enough of the back and forth. I think there needs to be negotiation, needs to be conversation about what really the problem is and resolving them as quick as possible, so that normalcy can sort of like return to the state.
All right. You are a leader. You are a youth leader, as a matter of fact. What would be your advice to the people of Rivers State for the press release by the governor? All right, the suspended governor. The press release has it that everywhere should be calm, everyone should be calm, there should be peace and all of that. That's one of the things that I picked from his press release. You as a youth leader and a thoughtful person and as an initiator, a global leader that you are right now, what would be your advice to the people of Rivers State, and not just the people of Rivers State, because the people of Rivers State are playing their own role. The people in authority should also play their own role. So what would be your advice to this set of people?
No, I mean, I echo the governor's sentiments. Remain calm. There's no need for any of this kind of violence or threats of violence. I think we should be calm. Rivers State hasn't benefited from the fact that people see us as a violent state. So we need to be a state that is ready enough for investments. We need to be a state that has harmony and peace. So I remain calm. Let's listen to the issues. Let's speak for peace. Let's advocate for peace, peaceful resolution, negotiation, for these issues to be resolved, so that the state can come back to normalcy. So that's my thoughts. Young people to people all across the state.
All right. Thank you very much, Ebenezar Wikina, for joining us on Global Morning today. We've been able to look at Rivers State, the state of the situation in Rivers State and its impact on developmental stride. We just hope that the new administrator will return to full force, hit the ground running. Allocation has been released. Let the people of Rivers State feel the impact of democracy as it is, even though this is not someone that is democratically elected, but then someone that has been brought in to install peace and order in the state. Many thanks for joining us today, Ebenezar.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, this is the size of the first conversation on Global Morning today. The breakfast show will still continue after this program because we're coming with the second conversation, and it's going to be all about having access to certain amenities irrespective of who you are, because we are all Nigerians together, whether you are physically challenged or you are okay, because everyone is okay as a matter of fact, whether you're physically challenged or not. Accessibility to amenities as Nigerians that will lead to developmental strides and national development will be the second conversation after this break. Stay with us.